5 NBT5, multiplying multi-digit numbers. So after this lesson, I will be able to multiply multi-digit numbers. So whether we're doing 2-digit by 2-digit, 2 by 3, 3 by 2, 3 by 1, 2 by 1, or even larger, we should be able to use any of the given methods to do so. All right, so I am going to give you a couple different methods of how to multiply. And partially because I want you to understand what's going on when you multiply. Once you understand what's happening during the multiplication, it makes it a lot easier to work towards using the standard algorithm for multiplying, which I know is what a lot of us want to be able to get to. The other piece of this is, though, a lot of times, like when I'm multiplying and just doing it in my head using mental math, you actually end up using what's called the partial products method. You just don't write it all down. So keep in mind, this is not something that we are expecting you to use for the rest of your life in terms of how to write down the multiplication. This is something that we're showing you on how to break it down so it becomes easier to do in your head, which, to be honest with you, is really what we want to get you to when it comes to being able to do math and being able to do math in real life. All right, so let's take a look at the area method. Or the area model method. Some people call this the box method, and you'll see why. Remember when we do the area of a figure, we do length times width. All right, so I just want you to keep that in mind and remembering that, so if this is a rectangle, we do length times width. Now, in order to make this work, we have to first split both numbers into extended form or expanded form. We usually call this expanded form. Expanded form means we take it and we split it into place values. So 56 is split into 50 plus 6. And then that's multiplied by, put this here, 20 plus 3. All right, so I know that's really close together, but we took 56 and split it into 50 and 6, and then 23 and split it into 20 and 3. Then what we're going to do is we're going to draw a rectangle with sections for each number in the expanded form. So what this means is I am going to draw, now you should have this already in your notes for you. So here's a rectangle. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 different parts of my expanded form. So I'm going to split this rectangle into 4 parts. So now my next step, because like I said, so 1, 2, 3, 4, my next step is to look at each of these as like a length and a width. So here's a length and here's a width, and here's a length and here's a width. So place each split value from the first number above its own section. So what that means is, so like this would be 50 and this would be 6. Okay, so it's like this length right here is 50 and this one is 6. Step number 4, place each split value from the second number to the left. So we have now 20 and 3. So basically what you did here is you took these and you said, okay, now I have a rectangle that is 50 by 20. I have another rectangle that's 6 by 20. I have another rectangle that's 3 by 50, and then 3 by 6. So we took this and we turned it into an area problem. All right, and then if I wanted to find the area, so each of these I can find the area all on its own, and then I can take all of them and put them together to find the area. All right, so now I'm going to multiply the numbers that correspond with the measurement from that rectangle. So like we said, this one was 20 by 50. So here and here. Right? And when I do that, I know 2 times 5 is 10. And then I have 2 zeros afterwards that I have to keep. Now my next one, I'm going to do a different color. I have 6 here, but I still have that 20. Trying to get back to my ink color here. There we go. I have that 20 right here. All right, so now I have 20 times 6. Again, I do 2 times 6 is 12. And then I have to keep that 0. All right, now I come down here and I have my next color. So I have this one here. I'm just going to show it as its own rectangle. Okay, it's 3 and 50. I know 3 times 5 is 15. And then I keep that 0. And I'm actually going to do this to show all the zeros that I kept. Okay, because that's a way that we can multiply by powers of 10, by ignoring the 0 at the end, only at the end, ignoring those zeros at the end, and then just multiplying the other non-zero numbers. And then now here, the multiplication we all know and love, nice and easy. 3 times 6 is 18. All right, so then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the product in each rectangle. So the first one was 1,000, and I'm going to add them all together. So the first one was 1,000, the next one was 120. And the next one was 150. And then the last one was 18. All right, and then I just go ahead and I add. 0, 0, 0, and 8 gives me 8. 0, 2, 5, and 1. So 2 plus 5 is 7. Plus 1 is 8. 1 plus 1 is 2. 1 plus nothing is 1. So my answer here would be 1,288. Right? Again, this is just a method for multiplication. It's not meant for you to be doing it that way all the time. The goal is to help you understand it and understand what's going on. So that way, as time goes on, you have a better chance of doing it correctly from the get-go. All right, so now let's go ahead. You can pause and try this next one on your own, or you can work through it with me. It's up to you. All right, so first thing we had to split it into the expanded form. So 15 turned into 10 plus 5, and 92 turned into 90 plus 2. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create my box. And again, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, so I need 4 spaces. Up here, I have 10 and 5. Over here, I have 90 and 2. In this box, I'm going to do 10 times 90. Again, 1 times 9 is 9. And then I have these 2 zeros on top that I add to my answer. In this box, I'm going to do 90 times 5. 9 times 5 is 45. And then I add that 0 to the top. In this box, I'm going to do 2 times 10. 1 times 2 is 2. Include the 0 at the end. And then in the last box, it is 2 times 5, which is 10. Now I'm going to add all of my numbers together. So 900 plus 450 plus 20 plus 10. Last column is 0. 5 plus 2 is 7, plus 1 is 8. 9 plus 4 is 15. Okay, so we're taking this and we're breaking it down into and I'm sorry, not 15, it is 13. We're breaking it down into the different place values. And then we're taking each place value and multiplying them together. Again, this is another way to do it. When you look at how we do partial products, you'll see that it's actually very similar. When it comes to the end part where you're adding all the pieces together, it's just we don't break it up into an area problem. All right, so let's go ahead and try the next one. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to set up the problem vertically like we did here. So 56 times 23. Yes, we did the same problem. I want to show you that it gives you all the same answers. All right, so we set up the problem vertically. Then I'm going to apply the ones place of both numbers together. So I'm going to do that in blue because my step is in blue. If you have colored pencils, I would encourage you to use them right now. So here I'm going to do 6 times 3, and that gives me 18. All right, and the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply the ones place of 23 and the tens place of 56. So now the ones place here is worth 3, but the tens place, remember, this is in the tens, so it's worth 50. So this would be 50 times 3. 5 times 3 is 15. And then you add that extra 0 to the end. This is starting to look a little bit familiar, like, oh, we kind of did that back in the area model, didn't we? Yes, we did. All right, so now I'm going to do the ones place times the tens place. So the ones place in 56, so my top number, so that's times 6 because it's in the ones place, so it's worth 6. Okay, but now this time it's the tens place. This 2 is in the tens place, so it's actually worth 20. So you can't multiply by 2, you have to multiply by 20. Here I have 2 times 6 gives me 12, and then I include that 0 at the end. And then for my last part for multiplication, I'm going to do both tens places. So the 50 and the 20 are going to be multiplied together. So 50 times 20. 5 times 2 is 10, and then I have 2 zeros to add to the end. And now I'm going to do that same thing that we talked about before, where we're going to add all those numbers together. So I'm going to take the 1,000, and I'm going to add 150. I'm sorry, the purple one was 120. I apologize, 120. Then my red one was the 150. And then my first one, the blue, was that nice little 18. Okay, I'm going to add those together. That's going to be my last step. So I get 8. 5 plus 2 is 7, plus 1 is 8. 1 plus 1 is 2. I don't have anything to add to the 1. And here I got 1,288 again. Like I said, when I do multiplication in my head, I actually do it this way, where I say, okay, the ones values gives me 18, and then 50 and 3 gives me 150, so I have 168, and I work through it that way in my head. I don't set it up traditionally and carry the 1 and do all that. When I do it on pencil and paper, when my numbers get larger, I do end up carrying the 1. The thing is, we want you to understand what's going on so you know why you have to put those numbers where they need to be, like why they have to go in the same column. Why does it matter that we put those zeros in after we multiply that first place value? All right, so let's go ahead and try it again. All right, so I'm going to do all of my steps. So I'm going to multiply first those ones values. So, and I actually write it out like this, 5 times 2, and that gives me 10. And then I'm going to do 10 times 2. Okay, 1 times 2 is 2. Keep that 0. It's 20. Then I have 5 times 90. Remember that 9 is in the tens place, so it's not worth 9, it's worth 90. 5 times 9 is 45. And then include that 0. And then I have 90, and I multiply it by 10. 9 times 1 is 9, but now I have 2 zeros that I have to include. All right, and then I'm going to add them all together. So 900 plus 450 plus 20 plus 10. That nice first column of all zeros. 5 plus 2 is 7, plus 1 is 8. And then 9 plus 4 is 13. Look at that. I added it correctly this time. So now I have 1,380 as my answer. Right. The last method that I'm going to show you is the standard method. So this is the way that a lot of us will end up doing math when we write it down on paper, which is totally great. What's going to help you with this is understanding the partial products in the area model and understanding, like going back here and looking at this. So remembering that this 1 right here, this 1 wasn't worth 1. It was actually worth 10 because it was in the tens place. So when we multiply, we have to make sure our place values are lined up or are ending up in the correct place. So looking at the standard algorithm, when we do this, we are going to set it up vertically, like we said, and then we're going to multiply the ones values, or the ones place values, again, for both numbers. So I have 6 times 3, and that's 18. So I'm just going to put the 8, and then I'm going to carry the 1 over to the other side, to the top of the tens place on the top number. Now here, 5 times 3 is 15. But by putting that 5 right here, notice I put it in the tens place. Because remember, this 5 isn't worth 5, it's actually worth 50. So 50 times 3 is 150. So it would make sense that I'm going to end up with at least a 50 right here. That's why we have to make sure that our numbers end up in the right place. Because again, this has to end up, this 5 times 3 has to end up giving me somewhere around 150. But we'll see how that 1 factors in a moment. Okay, so remember, this is a tens place, so it's a tens value, so it makes a huge difference where those numbers are. But now, 5 times 3 is 15, but this is an extra 1 over here, so we're going to add the 1, and it becomes 16. Now the 6 has to go in the tens place, and the 1 is going to go in the hundreds place. So does it make sense that 50 times 3 gave us 150? So far, so good. Now remember, we carried over, this is 1 tens value. So this isn't worth 1, it's worth 10 cubes, so to speak. So I had to add another 10 to that to get the 160. Okay, now I'm done with this 3. So I shouldn't get anything in the ones place anymore because now everything I'm doing is ones times tens. And the smallest value I get when I can possibly get when I do 1 times a 10, because again, this value is in the tens place right here that I'm working with, this 2. The smallest value I could possibly get is 10, meaning that there is nothing that can be in that tens place or in that ones place. Okay, so we're putting that 0 there. So 6 times 2 is 12. Remembering, again, because I did 6 times 20, so it's looking a little different. That's why we have to shift it. But we can just say 6 times 2 to make the math a little easier. All right, I already included this one, but now I got to carry the 1 from the 12. Now, 5 times 2 is 10, and I'm adding another 1 to that. So 5 times 2 is 10, plus another 1 is 11. And now I can do 8 plus 0 is 8, 6 plus 2 is 8, 1 plus 1 is 2, and then bring down the 1. So again, 1,288. And if I go back, I will see 1,288. 1,288. They all give me the same answer. They're just different ways of getting there, and that's totally fine. Right? For some of us, this might be the one that makes the most sense. For some of us, like for me, when I do it, sometimes I do like doing it this way because it's a little less messy. It's up to you. All right? So the next thing we're going to do, you're going to try this one with me or on your own. And then if you are trying it on your own, pause and then come back and check your work. All right, so we do 5 times 2, which is 10, carry the 1. And actually, I'm going to go ahead and do this in color. So this is 10, carry that 1. Now I'm going to do 1 times 2, which is 2, plus 1 is 3. Now remember, you have to add that 0. This has to go here because you're done with ones times ones. That's so important. If you don't add that 0 in, you're not going to come up with the correct answer. You're going to put a tens value in the ones place. And that is a big no-no. All right, so next I do 5 times 9, and I know 5 times 9 is 45. And I carry the 4. And then here I have 1 times 9 is 9, plus 4 is 13. And now I can add. 0 plus 0 is 0. 3 plus 5 is 8. Nothing to add to the 3, nothing to add to the 1, so I get 1,380. Again, if you go back and check the other ones, 1,380. 1,380. All right. The only thing that I want to add to this is, now let's say I had 151 times 92. I would go through that whole, so 2 times 1 is 2. 5 times 2 is 10. Carry the 1 again. 1 times 2 is 2, plus 1 is 3. Okay. Now I have a 0 here, and actually make this a 1. All right. So then now I'm done with the 2, so I have a 0. 1 times 9 is 9. 9 times 5 is 45. Carry the 4. 1 times 9 is 9, plus 4 is 13. Getting some big numbers here. Okay. Now I have to add 2 zeros because I'm 2 places in. 1 times 1 is 1. 5 times 1 is 5. 1 times 1 is 1. And then I would add them all together. So here, if I have 3 values, I'm going to end up having to add 1 0 in the second line and 2 zeros in the next line. For every number that you cross out when you're multiplying, you have to add that many zeros to that given line. All right. So the last thing I want you to do, I want you to use all 3 of the models to practice. Okay, yes, I did show you here that you end up with the same, or you're going to end up with the same answer. So if you don't end up with the same answer for both, you know one of them is incorrect. All right, I do want you to try all 3 methods, and then when we come back to class, you'll have an opportunity to practice and choose which one you like the best and want to continue to work with.